The monster lunged at him, slashing at Spencer's body with its claws. Luckily, he only sliced into his hoodie, tearing a small bit of cloth off. I then raised my gun, putting my finger on the trigger and unleashing my anger. 3 bullets shot forward, the first 2 hitting the monster in the chest, and the third straight through the neck. It stumbled back, falling to the ground as a thick red liquid burst from its body.
What the hell is that thing?
I wonder if it's a rat ghoul.
Spencer muttered. I glared at him, shoving him aside before approaching the creature. I knelt down over it, looking over its body. Its skin was gray, and at first touch, it felt very rough and dry. The creature also had large, sharp claws, seemingly capable of cutting through skin enough to draw blood. But what intrigued me the most were its eyes. No longer did the creature retain any sense of humanity. Its eyes were pure black, faint purple pupils visible within the darkness that represented its blackened brain. There was also blood streaking down across its face, almost like it was crying blood. I moved my hand forward to observe the blood trickling from its neck, and it suddenly reached out to me, grabbing my arm and pulling me towards it. Luckily, Hunter was there to bash its head in with his boot before it could grab me.
Oh God, I think I'm gonna be sick.
He exclaimed as he raised his boot up, staring at the smashed remains of its skull, now just a pile of thick scarlet blood, brain particles, and skull fragments. Hunter turned around and vomited in the corner to our disgust, Spencer joining him after eyeing the gory scene. I simply turned around, wiping the blood off my arm before walking back towards the door. Hunter had managed to get it open just before the mutant attack. If something tries to kill you, never hesitate to shoot, I told them. I entered the surgical room, being greeted with the classic white tile floors and ceiling, along with 4 large surgical tables set up in each corner. There were small rolling carts containing tools and other bottles on it as well, each of them set up at each workstation, except for one that was spilled onto the floor in the archway, leading to the connected presentation room. I flicked the light switch on, but it didn't work. The power's out here, but not in the dorms.
Maybe this part of the school is quarantined or something.
Spencer then shook his head after entering the room.
I don't think so. If it was, then we wouldn't have been able to get in these halls in the first place.
I reached into my pocket, lighting my lighter to use it for a faint source of light. I began searching one of the surgical tables, eventually finding the box below the table in a small compartment. I picked it up, only to hear a low groan from behind. I spun around, watching as Spencer shined his phone's flashlight at the fallen cart. A small trail of blood drops was leading away from the cart into the presentation room. "Who's there?" I asked as I raised my Desert Eagle, entering the room slowly.
Just me.
We both watched as a young doctor stepped out of the darkness, falling to his knees almost immediately. He was alive, but it didn't seem for much longer. He was clutching at his neck, covering a bleeding wound.
Don't worry. It didn't get me that bad. It's just a scratch. just a...
He moved his hand from his wound, revealing 3 large gash marks digging deep into his skin. He shot at us a crazed smile before falling forward, seizing right in front of us. Spencer jumped back in fear while Hunter knelt down, trying to help him up. But after a few seconds, he froze. He was dead.
Hey man, are you good?
Hunter asked. He reached down, holding the man's head, until suddenly it jolted back, revealing the pure black eyes and faint purple pupils. The man's hair began to fall out, his skin slowly draining itself of color and moisture. The man began to crawl back up, forming sharpened claws and fangs to attack with. He then stood up, looking at us before giving us a death screech. I jumped back, but was grabbed by the creature and tossed aside like a doll. My lighter fell from my hand and slid across the floor while I hit the wall, the creature rushing at me. Without hesitation, Hunter rushed to my aid, grabbing a scalpel off the table and stabbing it into the monster's top right shoulder. He screeched, turning around and slashing at Hunter. He fell to the ground, letting out a scream as blood spilled onto the floor. "Hunter!" The mutant then charged at me once again, raising his claws to cut me down. However, I managed to grab both of its arms, keeping it from killing me too quickly. The creature, however, began to snap at my neck with its fangs, a bloodlust filling its mind. I stared forward into the eyes of the mutant, watching as it screeched into my face, splattering flecks of blood onto my face. Meanwhile, my hands wrapped around its wrists, trying to hold it back from stabbing into my body and disemboweling me. The bulge on my waistband was gone, meaning the Desert Eagle must have fallen onto the floor somewhere. I had no weapon, no help, no anyone. I was screwed. Or at least that's what I thought for a few seconds. With all my strength, I held the mutant back, my grip on its arm slowly slipping. My heart raced as I clenched my teeth, praying for a last-minute savior. For once, I was at the mercy of another. And it scared me. Hunter, come on! Get up! A bullet tore into the mutant's head, splattering blood all over the wall beside me. Its body became limp, so I pushed it off, standing up and using my hood to wipe the blood off my face. My call to help was answered not by Hunter, but by Spencer. The boy was holding my Desert Eagle, his body shaking in fear as he held the gun towards my body. He was whimpering softly, his hands shuddering until finally he dropped the gun, falling to the floor as tears formed in the corner of his eyes. I rushed to Hunter's aid, kneeling down over his body. He groaned, turning over as he pulled his right sleeve down.
You good?
Yeah. Are you? I thought I saw... He shook his head.
Nah, he missed. I would have been up sooner, but the fall messed with my gunshot wound.
I smiled faintly, helping him up before looking at Spencer. Hunter knelt down beside him, helping the boy up. He looked at me and I looked away. Not glaring at him was reward enough. I picked up the small toolbox of my handgun, walking out of the room with the two of them behind me, only to see about 6 of the monsters down the hall on the opposite side of the dorms. Our eyes widened as they turned their heads, giving a death screech like the 2 before them. Their screech alerted another 4 at the end of the separate hallway, drawing them all to our location.
Holy...
Run! The 3 of us took off down the hall as the mutants did the same, some running on 2 legs and others running on 4. One of them actually jumped onto the wall, crawling along the boarded-up windows before jumping off with the intention to pounce. Luckily, I was able to turn and shoot it before taking the real damage. The 3 of us dashed towards the end of the hall, only for Spencer to slip on a pile of papers strewn across the floor. He got up, dropping his game buddy in the process. Hunter then helped him back to his feet as we reached the door. I grabbed the handle but realized immediately that it was locked. I reached for my handgun, but it was proven irrelevant as Maddie burst through the door, blasting 4 of them with a pump shotgun from the RV. I raised my deagle, firing at another 2 while Hunter moved in my class. He pulled a large knife out of his belt and slashed at one, cutting it across the face before stabbing it in the heart. We shoved the body aside before taking another, stabbing this one in the head. Maddie took down the last 2, killing them with shotgun blasts that put them down nearly instantly. I gave a breath of relief, turning to Maddie and asking, "Hey, you?"
Fine. I think... Wow, this thing has some kick to it.
Told you should have practiced with us at the range, I told her as she helped me up.
I never thought I'd ever have to use a gun.
She said,
By the way, you'd better get up. Isabella needs her tools and fast.
I nodded at her, following the young girl through the door. Spencer and Hunter both followed me, and together the 4 of us made our way back to the room. I set the toolbox down and her bedside table, causing her to smile.
Thank you, 3.
She said, opening the box up.
It won't be long now. Are you aware that there are monsters in this building?
Maddie asked curiously.
Monsters? Do you mean those things from the news?
Axel asked. Isabella sighed.
The infected. I know that the orchestral building was boarded up last week. Why? Downstairs in those hallways. We just killed 8.
10, I corrected, including a professor. Quinn's sister muttered under her breath.
Damn it. If they manage to get inside here, then they could get inside the dormitories. You mean those things could get inside here? Maybe. It all depends on the density of the doors and how persistent they are. I have only seen them on the news and some glimpses in public, but otherwise I've never really been in contact with them.
Let's hope you're wrong then, I told her. Maddie stepped past the kids and opened the window, glimpsing through the shades to see if anyone was outside. Meanwhile, I knelt down beside Spencer's backpack, sitting against the wall, opening it and taking his laptop out. I powered it on and sat against the wall. The laptop eventually powered on, revealing a password lock. I frowned, trying to think of what his password could be. It took a few seconds before typing in Pablo123 and watching the computer accept it. Idiot, I thought to myself as the computer unlocked. I was then met with the desktop background of Smash Ultimate and an array of games and programs. Minecraft, Undertale, a Tor browser, and several folders full of images and ROMs. I eventually found what I was looking for in the bottom left corner, RNG Locator. I opened up the program, revealing a black and red 3D map of the United States and the rest of the globe. On the map was a glowing blue dot, pulsating over the state of Illinois.
What you got there?
Maddie asked, as she sat beside me. Nothing, I told her, hoping she would go away. She looked at the map and all the details listed on the side before asking,
Is this a tracker? What are you looking at?
I didn't answer, instead enabling the picture mode. The red and black outline transformed into a realistic look of the country. I then scrolled in, revealing the blue dot pulsating as it moved down the road at high speeds. At the rate it was going, it would be here by sometime tonight.
Wait, are you tracking Anakin?
I rolled my eyes. Yes, Maddie, I'm tracking him,
Aw, do you care?
she said in a teasing voice. I shot her a glare, and she scooted away before asking.
How are you tracking them, though?
I gave Anakin a knife before he left. Last night at the campsite, I hollowed it out and put a bug inside, I explained. It's untraceable.
Well, I'm impressed, Andrew. You don't seem to be a very tech-savvy kind of person,
she said with an impressed grin. It doesn't take much to stuff a tiny chip into a tube and then open up a program on a computer, I told her. Honestly, you should thank Spencer. If it weren't for him carrying around the most useless shit, we wouldn't have had this.
Lighten up on him.
Hey, I just asked you to thank you. That's lightening up. After putting away the laptop, I noticed Isabella sat down on the scalpel. She then reached to the side, picking up a roll of bandages. I approached the bed, standing beside Hunter as Isabella covered his eye with gaze. She then stepped away, staring down at his body.
He should be waking up soon. He may be sore, but he should no longer be in pain.
The three of us watched as his fingers curled, his hand shifting to the left. His entire body rustled and Quinn's working eyes slowly flickered open. Hunter smiled, and I grinned faintly, watching as Quinn stared up at us with a frown. He reached up to his face, his hand brushing against the bandage over his eye. He moved his hand beneath the bandage, his other eye slowly widening as he came to the realization that his entire right eye was gone. He slowly began to breathe faster, and we began to realize he was having a panic attack.
I can't.
Calm down, Quinn. You're okay. We're all here.
Maddie said, gripping his hand tightly. A few minutes went by, Quinn slowly calming down with the help of Maddie. She was whispering to him, keeping him from panicking any more than he already was.
Let me guess. Andrew crashed the RV, and we all perished.
He asked Maddie, with a gulp as he relaxed in the bed. I shook my head. Nope. You may not have confidence in me, but I'm capable of driving that rust bucket. Quinn sighed.
Well, the long nap was nice, but I believe it is best we get back to work. We have school in the morning after all.
Our feeling of relief faded away quickly, the two of us staring at him in confusion. Quinn looked up at us and asked,
What's wrong?
Quinn, what do you last remember? He put his finger to his chin and took a second to think.
If I am correct, we were at Spencer's house spending the afternoon together. You and Spencer were continuing your incessant arguing, and Sarah and I were playing cards. I must have fallen asleep.
Hunter and I gave each other a look. both realizing something had gone wrong. The last thing he'd remember was not the night where he was shot with the crossbow, but the night before that. We were just normal teenagers living a normal life.
Quinn? We're not at home anymore.
He raised his eyebrow, obviously confused, and then looked around, scanning the room around him with his one good eye. Quinn finally spotted his sister behind him, sitting up.
Isabella?
Quinn looked back at me and asked,
What is going on?
Do you remember the internet post?
Maddie asked. He took a second to think before nodding.
Yes. Yes, I do. The details regarding a nuclear attack on the United States by the Russian and North Korean government, correct?
Yeah,
It was correct?
he asked.
Sorta. Green Book was destroyed.
He frowned, asking us.
And what of the others? Is it just the 4 of us?
Do you remember the movie theater? Remember when that guy drove the car off the ramp and kamikazed the attack jet? Or when that Mexican dude chucked a turtle at the Russian guy with the bomb taped to it?
Hunter asked, describing some of the scenes in the movie. Quinn nodded.
I do. God, that movie was horrendous. The action scenes were visibly inaccurate.
After the movie, we left to get something to eat. It was a bombing, and we tried to escape the city. Quinn frowned, rubbing his hand over the bandaged cuts on his arm.
We stayed the night at a campsite to try and cool down, but some junkies tried to rob us.
Maddie continued.
Junkies? Well, I'm sure that wasn't much of a problem for you and Luis, was it?
Quinn asked Hunter. He opened his mouth to reply, but nothing came out. We all took a second to think, exchanging looks to figure out who would be the one to tell him.
What? Is something wrong?
I sighed, tapping my foot. Quinn. Luis is dead. Quinn stopped, taking a brief moment to think. He then spoke.
That is unfortunate. Am I to assume that Anakin, Sarah, and Spencer have all perished as well?
I shook my head. They're all fine. Anakin and Space broke off to do something in Chicago and are on their way here. And Spencer is... I turned around to look for him, but he was gone. He wasn't even in the room. Hunter was standing beside me, fiddling with a box of cigarettes. Axel and Julia were watching the news reports on the TV, and Maddie was eating a chocolate bar while sitting on the bed. Where is he? I asked Maddie immediately. She looked at me and shrugged.
The bathroom, I think. Probably back on his game buddy. I think.
I cursed under my breath, turning around and bolting out of the room. I dashed down the hallway, remembering the game buddy had fallen from his pocket. Hunter followed behind me, the two of us rushing down the hallway and into the stairwell. We managed to make it downstairs just to see Spencer pick up his game buddy, wiping blood off the side of the device. Where the hell did you go?
Sorry, I dropped my game buddy earlier. All the monsters were dead, so I thought it'd be fine just to run down here and get it.
He explained. I scoffed. Yeah, I know you dropped it, but that doesn't mean you can run off without telling us.
Wait, you saw me drop my game buddy and you didn't tell me?
Yeah? So? It's just a dumb video game. I shouted at him before turning around. I was hoping without that thing you would actually contribute for once.
I don't care what you think! Just because I don't go around killing everyone that
Guys.
looks at me wrong doesn't mean I'm not contributing!
Guys!
You know what? I'm fucking sick of you. When Quinn is up and ready, we're leaving. Either you leave that stupid video game here,
Guys.
or you stay with it. I will not hesitate to let you die.
Oh, shut up, edgelord! All you do is make empty threats and act emo all the time!
Guys!
Before I could take a step forward to shut him down, Hunter shouted. The three of us stopped, filling the room with silence. We then heard banging coming from the door on the left that led to the front lobby. Spencer turned around and approached the door, opening it before we could stop him.
Spencer, no!
A woman was pushed into the room, blood gushing from her neck. A monster was grabbing her from behind, sinking its fangs deep into her. He watched in shock as it tore a large chunk of flesh from her body, spilling blood all over the carpeted floor. The woman's body fell to the ground, and we watched as several more mutants burst through the door. All of them came towards us. I reached for my gun as one of them threw me back, my body slamming against the wall. The Desert Eagle clattering to the floor, one of the mutants stepping over it to grab Hunter, who was struggling to grab his knife from his belt. We were pinned down, trapped, and disarmed.